Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Why do you think the lockdowns in Scotland through the COVID pandemic were much harsher and much more quickly introduced than they were in England, Wales or Northern Ireland? Well, it's because Nicola Sturgeon was grandstanding. She wanted to introduce the differences, not because she was concerned with people's health, but simply so she could use it as a tool towards independence. That is the conclusion that's being reached during the COVID inquiry. We're going to take a look at this story. It doesn't surprise anyone, of course, but I'm going to take a look at this story here because emails have been shown that a plan of action was put in place. Everyone agreed to it. Then Nicola Sturgeon basically went out of the room that it was all agreed in and went straight up onto the podium and announced massive closures straight away, just so she could feel important. What a sad little woman she must truly be. What a tiny little ego. Anyway, we'll take a look at this story and see why Scotland suffered so much worse and done without any scientific basis. It was simply the whims of an irate, sad, bitter, lonely woman. Here goes. So Nicola Sturgeon accused of grandstanding during COVID pandemic as she rushed to announce restrictions quicker and harsher than the rest of the UK. Is anyone surprised at that? I'm not. But there she did. She had these meetings. She ran out. She went, we're going to restrict this. We're going to restrict that. And I'm going to do it. And of course, she was being Scotland's mammy because she was more caring and loving of her country than the other leaders were of theirs. Not one bit of it. She was desperate to look important. She was desperate to push this as a difference between the systems so she could push again for independence. Everything within her had to be divisive. There was nothing good. And it was none of it based on science. It was all based on what she thought looked good and was better than what England were doing. What a sad woman. Anyway, the former First Minister rushed out to tell the Scottish public about potential COVID restrictions before any other devolved administration or the UK government, with Boris Johnson raising concerns about it. Because she was no scientist. She wasn't listening to the science. Even the scientists have since admitted a lot of what they did was pointless and useless. But no. She had to go. She had to go further and faster and harder and higher because she's Scottish and they are different and they want their independence and all this. You know, I'm surprised she didn't pay half her face blue. Honestly. Officials were warned during the COVID pandemic that Nicola Sturgeon was grandstanding when it came to decisions on restrictions across the UK. And she was accused of orchestrating the first split among decisions made to undertake a national approach to the disease. In new evidence submitted to the COVID inquiry, it was revealed that requests were made for civil servants to handle discussions about how to handle a pandemic due to fears about the First Minister's attempting to rush out decisions first. Boris Johnson was concerned about how it would look to have multiple meetings between all of the heads of state. I need to correct that. There was only one head of state. At that time, it was, of course, Her Majesty. Heads of government, maybe, but or heads of devolved assemblies, but not heads of state. Dear heavens to Betsy, please look at the world in which you live in. There was a wonderful case of Tony Blair was going to some meeting. And he was saying, we'll have to change the diary and that. And one of the aides said, no, you're not invited. He said, yeah, I'm the head of state. He goes, no, Prime Minister, you're the Prime Minister. The Queen is the head of state. And he was fuming. Good, innit? Anyway, an email chain was published which consisted of minutes from meetings with all of the Secretary of States for the 4 UK nations, where concerns were raised about each country lifting restrictions at a different time. The discussion also looked at requests for more regular meetings between the devolved administrations. Now, all of this could have been easily done, you know. They could have implemented an Emergency Powers Act and just said, right, no, it's a national thing, and it would have just been Boris Johnson's show. Cranky would never have got little talons of bitterness into any of it. She wouldn't have been sitting there doing her daily look at me, look at how important I am TV broadcast. People were sick of her. And the restrictions, of course, wouldn't have been as deep, wouldn't have been as harsh, that have been lifted far quicker. But that didn't suit her political aims. And so the people of Scotland were used as pawns, and undoubtedly people died because of those decisions, simply because Nicola Sturgeon needed to be different. No other reason. No reason at all. Anyway, most of the secretaries agreed that a regular meeting would be better at official level, meaning not involve the likes of Miss Sturgeon, Mark Drayford and Mr Johnson until after the decisions had been made. Scotland's then First Minister wanted a broader approach for social distancing measures, because it's a difference thing, isn't it? Alistair Jack said he expected the Scottish Government framework to be similar to that announced by HMG on Friday. He then added that he agreed with using civil servants as it would avoid Scottish FM grandstanding. In conclusion, the UK Government wrote that they recognised the caution taken by Mr Jack and his concerns that regular meetings would be a potential federalist Trojan horse. Yeah, he just didn't want her there because she was so hate-filled and hateful as well. They didn't like her. They didn't want her anywhere near it. And they could have avoided it. They could have absolutely avoided it. And just think, all those people, 5,500 people shoved into homes, dying unnecessarily, just because those two, on the bottom left picture, wanted to feel important. How Jean Freeman, I don't know how she hasn't been arrested and questioned yet. Anyway, they wanted to hold individual meetings with each devolved administration, but expected Scottish FM to bounce these. Scotland ended up with some of the harshest restrictions across the UK, especially during Christmas and New Year 2021, when mass gatherings were banned, unlike in England, where we had a jolly good time. Former Prime Minister Mr Johnson also gave evidence about his concerns about the four-nation approach and the role of Miss Sturgeon in this. Oh God, yes, she was grasping it with both hands, doing the old look at me, I'm important. As I say, Scotland's mammy. It covered the first few days of the pandemic when he announced that the country would be going into lockdown. He described how he attended a Cobra meeting on March the 10th, 2020, where he said that as far as possible, the four nations should try to stick together as one united kingdom. And one of the agreed actions was for the chief medical officers, as well as the government officials, prepare advice for them all on the approach to mass gatherings. But straight after the meeting, Miss Sturgeon was the first to bound out of the room and brief the press and announced that mass gatherings of over 500 people will be cancelled from Monday. He added, this naturally attracted widespread attention. It seemed to show the first split in the national, that is the UK-wide approach. And of course, he then gets bumped into things. Just because she's done them, he's like, oh God, I've got to do it now. What he should have done, he was weak. What he should have done is said, it's not necessary. Don't know why she's doing this. She's quite clearly mad and not listening to the scientists and not agreeing with the things that we've said in the meeting. So, sorry, Scotland, you've got to do this because you've got this egotistical maniac as First Minister. Or what he could have quite simply done is exercised the law. It would perhaps have been better in retrospect if we'd formed policy under the Civil Contingencies Act. Bang! There you go. Big brain. So as to bind the United Kingdom together. I said Emergency Powers Act. It's a similar thing. The Emergency Powers Act is the older one, but this is Civil Contingencies Act. It's still there. So as to bind the United Kingdom together, and then we should never. We would then have met regularly, UK government and devolved assemblies, to decide the policy and to stick to it. And they would have to legally accept it because it was UK-wide. God, I'm good, aren't I? There were, of course, a large number of regular meetings, either Cobras or other meetings, in which we all discussed and agreed a way forward. We were, in reality, much more often united than divided, except for Nicola Sturgeon. It is just one of those things. She has to be faster, first out the gate. Look at me, I care more. And it was none of that. It was nothing of the sort. It was all, we can build a case for independence on the back of this. That's what it was. I don't care that people are going to die. Independence. Freedom. You'll never take our freedom. Bloody William Wallace written through that cost people lives. And what has it achieved? I'll tell you what it's achieved. It's achieved precisely the square root of fuck all. At least she's gone. The trouble is, you got such an idiot in charge. But anyway, one more battle to fight, isn't it? I shall come up. Everything was always about Nicola Sturgeon, wasn't it? It was never about the people of Scotland. It was always about how it looked, the optics. Will we be the best? We'll be the one. We're the one. I'm the one that's going to stand out. I'm going to show that I'm the best leader. I'm the best leader for Scotland. You know, I know best. And you look at the damage she's done with potentially 5,500 deaths that she needs to account for. And that's why she is not releasing any of her WhatsApps. And if she's destroyed them, she needs to go to prison for contempt of court, because she did get a do not destroy notice. Preferably, I'd like her to release everything. I want everything out. I want her arrested and her phone confiscated. And then where they do have the other side of the conversation, if it doesn't match on her phone, then you have to ask why. And that's it. So she can't take the risk of destroying anything now if they've got the other half, because it will be contempt of court and she goes to jail. And I would love to see her sitting in a little cell with a man, pretends to be a woman. And then she can go on about how her fight for gender equality has been a rampant success. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. Not that anyone was surprised, of course, about all that. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see in here, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Until next time, stay safe, stay well. And remember, Nicola Sturgeon doesn't have your best interests at heart. Only hers. Bye.